I built my restaurant from nothing. Not a chain, not a franchise, not a concept backed by investors. A restaurant. My restaurant. The one I opened at 34 with a business loan I'd barely qualified for, in a building that needed more work than I had money for, in a neighborhood that people told me it was the wrong choice. 31 years. I was there at 6 in the morning and sometimes midnight. I knew every table number, every server's schedule, every vendor's delivery window. I knew which regulars wanted their coffee before they sat down and which ones needed a minute before anyone spoke to them. I built something that mattered to people and mattered to me. And when I finally sold it to a group that wanted to preserve exactly what it was rather than change it, the sale closed at $4,200,000. I was 65 years old. My hands were tired, my heart was full, and 3 days after the sale closed, while I was still sitting with the enormity of it, the end of something I had spent my entire adult life building, my doorbell rang. I opened the door. My daughter-in-law was standing on my porch with a suitcase. Her name is Kristen. She has been married to my son, Daniel, for 11 years. And for 9 of those 11 years, 9 years, 2 months, and some days that I stopped counting because the counting was killing me, she had made sure that I had almost no relationship with my granddaughter, Lily. Now, she was standing on my porch with a suitcase and a smile, and she said, "We thought you might want some company now that you've sold the restaurant. Lily would love to spend some time here. This place is so special." This place is so special? This place that she had kept Lily from for 9 years? I looked at her. I looked at the suitcase, and I said 4 words. 4 words that made her pick that suitcase back up. In about 70 minutes, you're going to understand everything. Every year of it, every phone call declined and birthday missed, and excuse delivered so smoothly it almost sounded real. And you're going to understand the 4 words. But first, you need to understand what she took from me, because this story is not about money. It was never about money. It was about a little girl who called me Grandma Jean the first time she met me, and then was slowly, carefully, systematically taught to see me as a stranger. My name is Jean. I'm 65 years old. I live in a house I have owned for 32 years in a mid-sized city in Ohio that I have no intention of leaving because my roots here go so deep that leaving would require a kind of excavation I'm not interested in at this stage of my life. I have one son, Daniel. He's 38. He has his father's eyes and my stubbornness and a quality of loyalty that is, at its core, a genuinely beautiful thing, but that has, in the specific context of his marriage, been pointed in the wrong direction for a long time. Daniel's father, my husband, Robert, died 11 years ago. Heart attack. Quick, no warning. One of those losses that reshapes everything because you had no time to brace for it, no period of adjustment, no slow goodbye. Just there and then not. Daniel met Kristen 8 months after his father died. I want to be honest about this because I think it matters. I did not like Kristen from the beginning, and I have spent a lot of therapy time understanding whether my instinct about her was accurate or whether it was grief displaced landing on the wrong person. The answer, I've concluded, is both. My grief made me less generous with her than I might have been, and her behavior over the following years confirmed that the instinct had something real in it. They married quickly, 14 months after they met, which was fine, which was their choice. I attended the wedding, I wore the dress Kristen approved from the options I sent her, I sat in the row she indicated, I gave a speech that her mother told me was lovely. Lily was born 2 years after the wedding. I was in the hospital waiting room when she arrived. Daniel called me from the delivery room. I could hear Lily crying in the background, and I sat in a plastic hospital chair and cried myself, the ugly, happy kind. I was in the room an hour later. I held her. She curled her hand around my finger the way newborns do, that specific, involuntary grip that still, even thinking about it now, makes something in my chest do something I don't have a word for. Daniel said, "Mom, meet Lily." And Lily, because she was 47 minutes old and had no ability to control her own face, opened her eyes briefly and looked at me. I said, "Hello, sweetheart. I'm your grandma." And that was the beginning of the best thing in my life since Daniel himself. And it was also, though I didn't know it yet, the beginning of the slow, systematic erosion of that relationship by a woman who had decided, for reasons I still don't fully understand, that I needed to be managed into the margins of her family. I want to tell you about the 9 years. Not every day of them. I don't have that kind of time, and you don't have that kind of patience. But I want to tell you enough that you understand the specific texture of what was done, because it is important to understand that it was not done loudly or cruelly or in ways that were easy to name directly. It was done quietly, in small, accumulating adjustments. The first year was fine. Lily was a baby. I visited monthly. I was included. I held her. I babysat. I learned her preferences the way grandmothers do, which songs she liked, which position she slept best in, how long she could stay awake before the crying started in earnest. Kristen was not warm with me, but she was not hostile. She was managed, controlled in a way I read initially as shyness or a reserved personality. It was not shyness. The adjustments began in Lily's second year. The visits became less frequent. Monthly became every 6 weeks, then every 2 months. The reasons were always reasonable. Lily had a cold, they had plans, Kristen's parents were visiting. Daniel was traveling for work, and Kristen wasn't comfortable having guests when he was away. Each reason was individually plausible. Together, they formed a pattern. By the time Lily was 3, I was seeing her approximately 6 times a year. By the time she was 5, it was 4. By the time she was 7, Kristen had established a system I can only describe as bureaucratic. Visits required advanced scheduling of at least 3 weeks. They had to take place at specific times and for specific durations. I was not to take Lily anywhere without both parents' written approval. Phone calls had to go through Kristen first because, she explained, in the tone of someone being reasonable, Lily had a nap schedule, and unexpected calls were disruptive. Lily was 7. 7-year-olds do not have nap schedules. But I said nothing, because saying something meant risking the 4 visits a year. The financial dynamic ran parallel to this. Daniel and Kristen were not struggling. Daniel had a good career in engineering, and Kristen worked in marketing. But they managed money in ways that consistently produced shortfalls that they expected me to bridge. I want to be specific because the numbers matter. Over 9 years, I gave my son and daughter-in-law the following: $42,000 for a down payment on their house, described as a gift, never expected back. $18,000 in various emergency situations: the car, a medical bill Kristen's insurance didn't fully cover, a period when Daniel changed jobs and there was a gap. Lily's private school tuition, partial, for 3 years, which came to $28,000. Approximately $8,000 in birthday gifts, holiday gifts, and occasion-related expenses that I calculated once and then decided not to calculate again because the number was depressing. Total, approximately $96,000, and 4 visits to my granddaughter. I want to pause here. I am not telling you this so that you'll calculate the exchange rate. I know how it sounds. I know that love is not transactional and giving should not expect return. But I want you to understand that the money was given in the context of a relationship, in the context of a grandmother's desire to be present and welcomed and included. and the money kept flowing in one direction while the relationship flowed in the opposite one. That asymmetry is the thing, not the money, the asymmetry. Lily turned 9 on a Saturday in April. I had given 3 weeks advance notice, as required by the system Kristen had established, of my intention to attend the birthday party. I had confirmed the time and location. I had bought a gift I knew Lily would love. She had mentioned in one of our increasingly rare phone calls that she was obsessed with a specific series of books. I had bought the full set, had them wrapped by the bookstore, and had written a card in my own handwriting. I drove an hour and 40 minutes. I arrived at the correct time. The party was at a local venue, one of those indoor playgrounds with climbing structures and foam pits and a party room in the back. 20 children, a handful of adults. Kristen's mother was there, Kristen's sister was there, Kristen's college friends were there with their children. I was the only person from Daniel's side of the family. Daniel wasn't there. He was traveling for work. Kristen told me this when I arrived, casually, as though she had mentioned it before, which she had not. Daniel was in Atlanta. He wouldn't be back until Sunday. I smiled and said that was okay and went to find Lily. Lily was in the middle of the foam pit with 4 other children, and when she climbed out and saw me, she said, "Grandma Jean," with the specific enthusiasm of a child who does not see someone enough, but still, when she does, remembers why she loves them. That moment, that one moment. I carry it with me. For the next 40 minutes, things were fine. And then Kristen's mother, a woman named Patricia, who I have always found pleasant enough in limited doses, sat down beside me at one of the party tables. Patricia is the kind of woman who means well and says the wrong thing. She said, "Isn't it so lovely that the whole family could be here? I feel like we don't all get together enough." She meant her side of the family. She did not mean me. I understood that. I did not say anything. But then she said, and I believe she genuinely did not understand what she was saying, which in some ways makes it worse. Lily talks about her other grandparents all the time. It's so sweet how close she is with Michael and Janet. Michael and Janet are Kristen's parents. She's always at their house on weekends. She loves it there. I looked across the room at my granddaughter, who was laughing at something one of her friends had said, and I calculated. Weekends at Michael and Janet's. 4 visits a year with me. The same child, different grandparents. One of us had been managed into the margins. I drove home an hour and 40 minutes that evening, and I sat in my kitchen and I allowed myself, for the first time in 9 years, to stop explaining it away. It was not Lily's nap schedule. It was not Daniel's travel schedule. It was not my own difficulty adjusting after Robert died. It was a decision. A sustained, maintained, managed decision to limit my access to my granddaughter while allowing unlimited access to the other grandparents. I wrote it down that night, the way I wrote down everything in the restaurant. Dates, observations, patterns, the way you manage something that matters. I started keeping records. Have you ever had that moment? The one where you finally stop explaining away a pattern and allow yourself to see it clearly? Tell me in the comments, because I think we do this with family more than anywhere else in our lives. We are more willing to believe a comfortable explanation than an uncomfortable truth for longer when it involves the people we love. The restaurant sale took 18 months from first conversation to closing. I had been approached by a hospitality group, a small, quality-focused company that was expanding their portfolio with established independent restaurants they wanted to preserve rather than rebrand. They had eaten at my restaurant 4 times before reaching out. They understood what it was. The negotiation was slow and detailed, and I hired a business broker and a lawyer, and I did it right, the way I had done everything with the restaurant. Carefully, without rushing, with attention to every line of the contract. The sale closed on a Wednesday. $4,200,000. After taxes, broker fees, and the final mortgage payoff on the building, my net was approximately $2,900,000. I sat in my lawyer's office after the signing, and he shook my hand and said, 31 years. You should be proud. I was proud. I was also 65, and my hands were tired, and I wanted to sleep past 5 in the morning for the first time in 3 decades. I did not announce the sale publicly. It was covered briefly in our local business press, small enough that most people wouldn't see it, but I did not post about it, did not send a mass announcement, did not discuss the specific number with anyone except my financial advisor and my lawyer. My son knew, because I had told the sale was in process. Kristen knew, because Daniel knew. 3 days after closing, the doorbell rang. She was on the porch, with a suitcase, right here. 9 years of 4 visits a year. $96,000 in one direction. Lily at Michael and Janet's every weekend. And Kristen on my porch 3 days after a $4 million sale with a suitcase and a smile. We thought you might want some company now that you've sold the restaurant. Lily would love to spend some time here. This place is so special. I looked at her. I looked at the suitcase, and I said 4 words. Before I tell you what they were, if this story is hitting something real, if you have a grandchild you've been managed away from, if you've been the grandmother whose calls go unreturned, whose visits have a schedule and a duration and an exit time, if you've been writing checks to people who are limiting your access to the child those checks are supposed to support, hit subscribe right now. I share a new story every single week about families, about money, about the women who built things quietly for decades, and what happens when those women finally stop absorbing. Subscribe, and then stay, because the 4 words changed everything that happened next. I looked at Kristen, I looked at the suitcase, and I said, "Not this time, Kristen." She blinked. The smile stayed on her face for a moment past when it should have, the specific delay of an expression that has been placed deliberately and doesn't know yet that the circumstance has shifted. "I'm sorry?" "Not this time," I said again. "You're welcome to visit without the suitcase, but I'd like you to call first, the way I've been required to call 3 weeks in advance with a confirmed time and duration." Her face changed. "Geen, I just thought Daniel thought it might be nice for Lily to—" "Lily is always welcome here," I said. "She has always been welcome here. What I'm saying is that I'm not available to be remembered when it's convenient." "That's not—" "Kristen, I've been seeing my granddaughter 4 times a year for 9 years, while she spends weekends at your parents' house. I understand that you've had reasons for that. I'm telling you that going forward, my availability and my home will be extended on the same terms that my relationship has been managed." She opened her mouth. She closed it. She looked at the suitcase. She looked at me. I held the door. Not closed, I didn't slam anything, but held, clearly, in a way that communicated, this door is mine, and I decide who enters it, and today the decision is no. She picked up the suitcase. She said, "I'll have Daniel call you." "I look forward to it," I said. She walked back to her car. I closed my door. I stood in my entryway for a long time. And then I went to my kitchen and made coffee and sat at the table where Robert used to sit across from me in the mornings, and I thought, I should have said those 4 words 9 years ago. I should have said them the first time a visit was rescheduled without explanation. I should have said them the year the phone calls went through Kristen first. I should have said them at the birthday party when Patricia told me Lily was at Michael and Janet's every weekend. Not this time. Not this time. Now, let me tell you what happened in the weeks after, because the suitcase moment was not the ending. It was the beginning of something I hadn't expected. Daniel called me the same evening. He called with the voice he uses when he is caught between two people who want different things from him. Careful, slightly formal, working hard to sound neutral. "Mom, Kristen said things got a little tense earlier." "I declined to let her move in on 3 days' notice," I said. "I would characterize that as reasonable rather than tense. She was just trying to—" "Daniel, I want to talk to you about something. Not tonight. I want you to come over. Not with Kristen, just you." A pause. "Is everything okay?" "Everything is fine. I just want to have a real conversation with my son. Can you do that?" He came on Saturday. I had spent the week preparing. Not a speech. I am not a speech person. But notes, the way I had always kept notes at the restaurant. Organized and clear and without excess emotion. I had documented the visits. Dates, durations, reasons given for cancellations. Going back 9 years. I had the birthday party, the nap schedule rationale, the 3-week advance notice requirement, the phone calls through Kristen. I had also documented the financial contributions, dates, amounts, purposes. $96,000. 9 years. I laid both documents on the kitchen table. Daniel looked at them. He did not say anything immediately. "I'm not laying these out to make you feel guilty," I said. "I'm laying them out because I want us to have an honest conversation about what the last 9 years have looked like. And I want you to see it in writing rather than in memory, because memory is easier to dispute than documentation." He looked at the visit log. He looked at the financial document. He was quiet for a long time. "I didn't know it was 4 visits a year," he said finally. "I knew it had gotten less. I didn't count." "I did," I said. He picked up the financial document. He put it back down. "Mom, the money, I don't want the money back. That's not why I'm showing you this. I'm showing you because the money went one direction and the relationship went the other, and I need you to understand that I noticed that. I noticed it for 9 years, and I absorbed it, and I kept writing the checks because the checks were the only leverage I had to stay adjacent to my granddaughter." He looked up. "That's not—" He stopped. "Is it not?" I said quietly. He didn't answer. We sat in silence for a moment. "I love you," I said. "I love Lily. I am telling you this because I am 65 years old and I have just sold the thing I built for 31 years, and I am done spending whatever time I have left being managed into the margins of my own family. I am telling you because I want something different. Not war, not punishment. Different." He looked at his hands. And then he said something I had not expected. "I know," he said. "I know it's been like this. I've let it happen. I've been telling myself it was easier to let Kristen manage the family schedule, and I knew it wasn't right, and I let it go on for too long." He looked at me. "I'm sorry, Mom." 2 words. My son, sitting at my kitchen table, saying, "I'm sorry." Not for a specific incident, for 9 years of letting it go on. I pressed my lips together. "That means more to me than you know," I said. In the months that followed, several things changed. Some of them because of Daniel's choices, some of them because of Kristen's, once she understood that the landscape had shifted. Daniel initiated what he called a family restructuring, his engineering brain, naming things in terms he could manage. He told Kristen that going forward, his mother would have standing monthly visits with Lily, unscheduled by Kristen, coordinated directly between him and me. He told her the 3-week advance notice requirement was eliminated. He told her that his mother would have his cell phone number on Lily's phone so that calls could be made directly. Kristen did not respond warmly to this. There were several weeks of tension in their household that I was not present for and did not want details about. Daniel navigated it. He held the position in a way I had not seen from him before. The way he used to hold positions when he was younger, before the marriage taught him that holding positions created conflict, and conflict was something to be avoided. He was done avoiding it. Lily started calling me on Thursdays. Just Thursdays at first. Then sometimes other days when something happened at school she wanted to tell someone about. She told me about a friend situation that was complicated. She told me about a book she'd finished and what she thought about the ending. She told me on a Tuesday evening in October that she was glad we were talking more. "Me too, sweetheart," I said. "Mom said you used to call a lot when I was a baby," she said. I took a breath. "I called whenever I could," I said. "I always wanted to be here. I always wanted to know you." "I know," she said. 10 years old. Kids understand more than we give them credit for. My sister-in-law, Robert's younger sister, a woman named Carol, who has been in my corner for 32 years, called me about 6 weeks after the porch conversation. She had heard, through Daniel, some version of what had happened. She said, "What you said to her, the 4 words, you should have said that 9 years ago." "I know," I said. "What stopped you?" I thought about that. "I was afraid if I pushed back, she'd take Lily further away." "She was already taking Lily further away," Carol said. "Yes," I said. "I know that now." "Jean," Carol's voice was steady, "you spent 9 years making yourself smaller because you thought it would keep the door open. How did that work out?" I laughed, the real kind. "Not well," I said. "No, it didn't." As for Kristen, our relationship is what I would describe as functional. Not warm, not repaired, functional. We are polite, we are civil at family gatherings. She understands that Daniel has made a decision and that the decision is held. She no longer schedules my access to my granddaughter. That is not a small thing. It has been 14 months since the porch conversation. In 14 months, I have seen Lily 23 times. I counted, the way I count everything, not out of bitterness, out of joy. 23 times. More in 14 months than in the previous 3 years combined. She knows the restaurant now, the story of it, the 31 years, the early mornings. I took her to the building once, after the new owners had settled in, and she looked at it from the outside and said, "You built this?" "I built this," I said. "From nothing?" "From an idea and a loan I barely qualified for," I said. She looked at the building for a long time. "I want to build something," she said. "Someday." "You will," I said. "I have no doubt." I started therapy 6 months after the sale closed, not specifically because of Kristen or the 9 years, but because 65 is a significant threshold, and I wanted to do it right. My therapist, a woman named Dr. Fowler, sharp and warm in equal measure, has introduced me to something she calls the compliance tax. The cost of staying quiet. The price paid year after year when we make ourselves smaller to preserve access. The specific erosion that happens when someone learns over time that managing us is possible, that we will absorb, that we will not push back, that the cost of crossing us is low. I had been paying the compliance tax for 9 years. Not because I was weak, because I was afraid. The thing Dr. Fowler has helped me understand is that the fear was real, but the calculation was wrong. I believed that making myself smaller would preserve Lily. What it actually preserved was Kristen's ability to manage me. Lily kept getting managed further away regardless. The 4 words cost nothing I hadn't already lost, and they returned something I thought was gone. You've been building things your whole life, Dr. Fowler said in one of our sessions. The restaurant, your home, your son. You know how to build things. What made you think you couldn't build this? I didn't have a good answer. I have one now. I was waiting for permission. I am 65 years old, and I was waiting for a woman half my age to give me permission to be my granddaughter's grandmother. I am done waiting for that. I want to say something to you directly before we close. If you are a grandmother or a grandfather or any version of a grandparent who has been managed away from a grandchild you love, I want to say this as clearly as I know how. Your relationship with that child is not a privilege to be granted by the child's parents. It is a relationship, real, direct, belonging to both of you. And the person who is managing your access is betting on your compliance, betting that you will absorb the rescheduled visits and the advance notice requirements and the phone calls that go through them first, because the cost of not absorbing it feels higher than the cost of absorbing it. It isn't. The cost of absorbing it is 9 years. Not this time. Those 3 words, I know I said 4, but those are the 3 that mattered, are always available to you. Say them. Not with anger, not with ultimatums, just clearly. Not this time. Maybe you're living a version of this. Maybe you're not a grandparent. Maybe you're the adult child of a parent who has been managed away from your children by a partner who controls the access. Maybe you're the grandparent watching from the outside. Maybe you're the daughter-in-law reading this and recognizing something uncomfortable. Whatever position you're in, I want you to hold this question. What are you absorbing right now? What are you making yourself smaller for? And is the thing you're protecting still there? Or has the compliance tax been paid without any return? One final question. When I opened the door and saw Kristen with her suitcase, I had a choice. I could have let her in, could have told myself that the relationship with Lily was worth one more accommodation, could have made tea and been gracious and added another layer to 9 years of compliance. I said 4 words instead. What would you have done? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story meant something, hit the like button. Share it with a grandmother who needed to hear it today. And subscribe, because I'll be here next week. There's a story in the description I think you'll connect with even more than this one. I'll see you in the next one.